Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Chancellor. It's very bizarre to be saying that to Don, who I've known for almost 50 years, and to my great friend Harvey. Thank you for not telling any of the truth, and that could have been embarrassing. But I did notice that when I was introduced as Dr. Johnston, that my daughters tittered over here. Which, they still can't believe that such a thing could happen. First, thank you to Trent. This is a very meaningful day for me. I'm at that more vulnerable age than Don, being 2 years older and obviously more fragile. You can see that, where any kind of compliment and flattery is really welcomed. And I ask you not to stop with that. Now, I'm supposed to be giving a written speech, but I need to tell you, and I apologize to the interpreter, in my 40 years of public service, I've only given one written speech. That was at the 1982 Leadership Convention of the NDP, which I lost to Bob Rae, who turned out not even to be a New Democrat. So if I don't stick to the script today, you'll understand why. The important thing to remember is that this is your day, this is your wonderful day of a celebration, and nobody ever remembers the Convocation speech anyway, unless it was the one given this morning, which was brilliant. Anyway, congratulations to you graduates. As a president of a college, I've always loved this moment. It's taken a lot of perseverance and creativity, focus, organization, good luck, good timing, great parents, loved ones to get you here. And unfortunately, all those traits that you've been picking up here, you're going to need in spades in the years to come. My life is any kind of yardstick. I was at the peak of that period where people stopped having one job, and I've certainly shown that. I couldn't hold one at a time, let alone one throughout the whole time. You're going to have many wonderful moments. Some of them are going to be personal pirouettes in this dance of life, like the one you're just about to have here as you come forward and get recognized. Some of them are going to be tangos with loved ones over time, and they will important keep you together. But then there's also the global and community dance, which I really urge you to be involved in and not pull back from. There is no time when Trent grads were so needed in the world as they're going to be in this next few decades. I can't help but be a little personal today because I'm often talked about as one of the first students to register at Trent. My parents worked here, my sisters went to school here. I mean, I built this place. I mean, literally, I poured concrete for this library and had a WSIB claim as a result in 1967. So I feel this place even today on a wet day. Our whole family was involved. We had the first international students used to come to our farm out near Warsaw for Christmas holidays. We had barn dances out there and tea under the trees with our faculty. You got to remember there were 105 students and 26 faculty. You have the same ratio today, approximately. But I'll tell you, it was good, except that you couldn't hide. every class was about 8 people and the professor staring at you. So it was a little onerous. And of course, we wore gowns all the time. I feel a little strange in this color because mine was green, and I wore it to class. We wore it downtown to the shame of the people in Peterborough who couldn't understand who we were. We used to wear them on top of the drumlin, using them to get the fires going for our bonfires up there as well. And mine, I was going to bring it today. It's actually still intact. But I think there are many little lessons I'd like to say. One of them is that it's surprising things that get you engaged and teach you. My public life started here as well. I became the president of the college cabinet of Champlain College. And while the rest of the world was rebelling in terms of things like the Vietnam War, etc., my colleagues, including Harvey, instructed me that I was to go and confront the master, renowned W.L. Morton, one of Canada's great historians, a very daunting character, and to explain to him that women should be allowed in our college rooms after 10 p.m. he was an intimidating guy, as I say, and he had this parsimonious side, or his tactics, I'm not sure, but he used to smoke his pipe all day long, the same tobacco. So by the middle of the day, the smoke was just blue and it was acrid, right? And you really felt scared of this guy. So I walked into the master's lodge, had started stammering, and I didn't have any idea how I was going to get him to go along with this outrageous request. When his little Scotty dog came around the corner of the chair of his desk and peed on my foot. He was just abject, totally embarrassed, and it was a wonderful political moment when I realized I had him. I could get whatever I wanted, and I've used this tactic any number of times. I've trained dogs in coming to the legislature. That's not true, but there you go. Our inaugural class wouldn't have filled up these chairs here today, and it was a wonderful experience. But we were pretty unaware of how important it was that we were starting this amazing university, which is really clear to me from this podium today. I think we were caught up with our own little lives. I was so unaware that the day that we opened, I was asked to go and have my picture taken with the sheriff's daughter, Sue McBride, as the first signatories to the registrar book in here at the university. And I didn't want to go. I was really angry that I'd been pulled in to have my picture taken because I was being pulled away from a game of bridge. Not that I was winning, I was probably the dummy as usual. But the picture of me scowling was taken by the Peterborough Examiner and still hangs, thankfully, on a remote hallway here in the university. But I had no sense of place, no sense of time, of the importance of this place, let alone the fact that we were cracking the ceiling of a very elitist society at that time. Up to that point, only 15% of the people going to post-secondary, only 15% of the population went to post-secondary, if you think about that. They were mostly male, and they mostly had money. It was a really elitist system, and with the invention of Trent and Brock and the community colleges, that's all changed, so that now over half of the population goes to post-secondary. Now, unfortunately, we still fund the system on the same elitist model. That's to say, parents and you go into an enormous amount of debt in order to fund an elitist system where those people never had to worry about debt, quite frankly. And we're way out of time on this. We've got to change it. If this is now the basis for going out into the world, which I believe it is, then it should be universally funded through the tax system and should not be a burden on families. All right, that's as close as I'm going to get to a political rant. But, you put an ex-politician in front of a microphone with an audience, and what do you expect? There's an election on. What were you people thinking of giving me this time? At any rate, let me just another story. In 1981, there was a provincial election call, and a bunch of us had gone out to do our strategic planning. And we'd had a long day, and then we had dinner, a couple glasses of wine, and we came out to go back to the legislature, and 5 of us got into a cab. And I, being the youngest, just elected in a by-election just before that, I squeezed in beside the driver and was a little full of myself. So I said to him, "Well, what do you think? Is there going to be an election?" And he said, "Well, frankly, I don't care. I used to care, but I don't care anymore." And I said, why is that? And he said, "Well, the last time I voted for this guy and I thought he was going to be great, and he's turned out to be a real dud." And so I'm sitting there squeezed, and I said, "Well, I hope you don't live in Scarborough West." And he said, "I thought I recognized you." I've never known if he really did, or if it was just one of the cabbie's arsenal of quips. But I thought it was a wonderful put down and an important sort of remembering to be a little humility is a good thing and carries you a long way in life. I hope you have as eclectic career as I had. It's been really quite wonderful. If you're going to do it, you have to challenge some of the societal myths that are out there, but hold on to the traditions that are really important. I think as a lefty, one of the major challenges we always had was being anxious to move the agenda forward, and sometimes forgetting that there's comfort in the inertia, and there's a timidity about change, and it's really important to draw people along with you. So even if you're passionately involved in wanting to eradicate poverty and the other issues that were vital to me, you've really got to understand that you've got to draw people along with you. And to take some risks when you do it, like going on that welfare diet was probably the riskiest political decision I ever made, but it helped change the attitude around where we were on social assistance in those days. There's a folly of complacency that's out there at the moment, which is incredibly dangerous. I hope you're more aware of what's going on than most people, I think, are in our society at the moment in terms of the massive sea change that's happening. Right when we think we're graduating a majority of people to have the kind of education you're getting, we are also eradicating that middle class right around the world. With globalized control of finances, we're now finding that the middle class is just disappearing. The gap between rich and poor is getting even more worse, and nobody seems to have any handles on it anymore. At least when we had countries able to control things, that was one thing. But now with global finances just moving around in ways that we can't control them, we're really, really vulnerable. And it's not just things like climate change that have our attention. We've really got to understand just how dangerous a moment we're at this stage in our lives. And I hope that all of you keep your eye on that side of things. I know some people tell me, well, I'm going to be too busy just trying to find work in my field or in a field that interests me. But I've got to tell you, you will get energized no matter how tired you are from the day to day by getting engaged. I remember working with welfare moms who, were having real trouble just getting food on the table. And then when they took on the reform of the social assistance program, they just turned into tigers. And they were just so awe-inspiring. And I really hope that you'll do that and take risks. Try to be the first at things. I mean, I had great fun. We started the Commoner, which was the first pub at Trent here. I was the first person to start community care in Durham, first person to get French language instruction as an MPP in my office. I've done all these things which were a little bit risky. Growing grapes in an area which is way too cold for grapes is probably one example that we could use. And I encourage you to look at things that you're never expecting to do. And if that opportunity opens itself to you, take it. And take it quickly. Generally speaking, you won't be disappointed. Even if it's a slight detour, it'll energize you and keep you moving. So let me conclude with one last political story. And that is about my maiden speech. I took my time deciding which speech to make 3 or 4 weeks after I was elected. And then a bill came up by one of my colleagues for pay for equal work of equal value. And I thought, this is it. This is my speech. And I worked on this for about 3 weeks before it came up. I was the third person to speak for the New Democrats. When I got up to speak, Speaker Stokes said, recognize the member for Scarborough West, and the whole place came into applause because it was my first speech. And then he said, you have 1 minute. And I said, but Mr. Speaker, I've been working on this for weeks. It's my maiden speech. He said, you have 45 seconds. So I looked at my notes and I did this amazing précis. I mean, it must have been amazing because we won the vote. And sat down and realized that you can prepare like crazy and your papers will fly away at a meaningful moment. Or you can learn to go with the flow. And the second lesson I learned is that you should never give a longer speech than you need to, and I probably have already broken that one. Sorry.